Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're boarding passengers seated in zones E and F at this time. Your zone number.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Crew Travel right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I'm very pleased to welcome back Lee Harris from ATPI Travel. How are you after a week over in Monaco?
I'm good, really good actually. It was a lovely week at the show. Got to meet lots of lovely people, and also got to meet a lot of the guys from Yachting International Radio, which was lovely. We got to have a photo and a quick chat. So yeah, all lovely ladies.
I'm assuming ATPI Travel flew you over there, right?
Indeed, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were quite lucky because, as is usual with France, they decided to have an airstrike. The Marseille air traffic control decided to have an airstrike, so quite a few people were cancelled on certain days and rebooked. Yeah,
it was crazy. It was chaos. I think I saw on LinkedIn that a bunch of people actually rented a van and drove. Other people canceled their trips entirely. Other people were booking hotel rooms at the airport and rebooking for first thing the next morning. It literally created absolute chaos. I didn't realize, I think, that the Monaco Yacht Show was so very important to the British or to the European crowd, because I'm the Fort Lauderdale type of person. Monaco's much smaller than the Fort Lauderdale show, let's say. So I didn't realize how important it was. And oh my goodness, it was almost like a revolt had happened on LinkedIn with all the issues getting over to the Monaco Yacht Show.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was real crazy. And like you say, there was people renting cars, driving 11 hours to get there. And a lot of other people were either rebooked for the following day or just cancelled altogether.
And on top of that, there was a huge issue this year. And I guess it's happened to some extent in previous years. But people that have booked all their accommodations, all of a sudden the accommodations were getting canceled.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I've not heard this. I've not seen or heard this.
A lot of Airbnbs and that kind of thing. All of a sudden, I don't know whether they were like, you know what, I can get more money. We're going to cancel your reservation to get the more money I can over here. It was chaos. It was anything to do with travel and anything to do with staying was chaos.
That's why they need to come to a reputable travel provider. That's what it is. Wink, nudge.
Or not go to Monaco. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to Monaco, but anyway, moving on. I'll get myself into trouble again. Shocker. One thing that we keep bringing up in the last little while is the fact that a lot more airlines lately are experiencing extreme turbulence in the air. Now, we asked you a couple of weeks ago to do some research into that, and you were planning on doing that, but it turns out to be a topic that's going to be a show unto its own, because there is a lot of information out there, and we are looking to see an increase in the years to come. So it is really definitely information that should be in its own segment, so people can refer to that later. So I think maybe next Wednesday we'll air a show on air turbulence, the causes, the effects, and what to look for in the future. Correct?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I did. I've done the research and went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, to be honest with you, with the reasons why it happens, the effects on it, what airlines are doing to combat turbulence, and the effects of climate change and all the rest of it. So it's definitely something that needs its own show for definite. It's not something that we can tag on the end or at the start of a standard travel crew updates, because it's quite a topic at the moment as well. There's been lots of stories about things that have happened, accidents that have happened, people have been injured or in certain cases have passed away, unfortunately. And so it's definitely an standalone episode on its own, a special, so to speak.
I think it's a warning to the world, really, is that now our climate change is affecting not only the waters, as we're seeing with yachts that are sinking, that are supposedly unsinkable, and even throughout the Mediterranean. You talk to a lot of people, a lot of the fishermen, et cetera, they're just saying it's changing. And the type of freak storms that are happening are occurring earlier and more often and more severe. And we're experiencing it in the sky now as well.
Yeah.
So for anyone out there that says, oh, nothing going on, then you need to undig your head from the sand, because you're not living in reality.
Yeah, it is a fine climate change. It just goes to show how much a fine balance that the Earth is, really, isn't it? You know, we talk about climate change is very much focused on the sea and rise and tides and all the rest of it. But like you say, it's that fine balance between it affects one part of the Earth, and then it also we're now starting to realise and notice that it's affecting the skies as well. So Yeah, I think it's something that probably people didn't realise. I didn't realise how much it would affect turbulence and the planning that goes into flight routes and stuff like that. It's been really interesting actually doing the research on turbulence and the effects of it.
We'll go into that next week,
We
and
will.
I'll have a lot to say.
Yes.
As per usual.
I was going to say, that's the norm, isn't it?
Oh, yes. One day I'll retire and everybody go, oh, thank goodness she's gone. So let's talk, or shall we not, talk about the entry-exit system in Europe. This is, when I was a kid, we used to watch a soap opera called Days of Our Lives. And I'm thinking this is becoming one of those long-running soap operas.
It is, yeah. It does seem to be. It's something that we've talked about extensively on Yacht Crew Travel, and that is the European Union's new entry-exit system, which is called the EES for short, which is due to launch in November. However, according to new reports, this could be delayed yet again. France, Germany, and the Netherlands have written to the EU Home Affairs Commissioner, warning that they will not be ready in time for the start of EES on November the 10th. That's according to the Guardian newspaper. Which shocks me a little bit, bearing in mind that this date has been delayed about 4 or 5 times and they still can't be ready for this new date. Anyway, the newspaper reported that several sources said the 3 countries are concerned about the lack of testing of the system, which will mean non-EU travellers will have to register their fingerprint and have their photo taken on the first time they cross the border. Now, this is an ongoing story, and rest assured, we will give you further updates when we have more news on the implementation date. However, it was very interesting to note at the Monaco Yacht Show that we were talking about earlier, just how many non-Europeans I spoke to were not aware that the new system is actually going to be in place for next year's show. So it was quite good to spread the word and let people know about that. But yeah, it's for something that we've talked about extensively and for something that's been in the news quite a lot. It did surprise me how many people were unaware what they would need to do.
I think a lot of the people that were at the Monaco Yacht Show happen to be British. And I don't know what lots of lovely British people, but I think maybe what it has to do with is the fact that there was such an ease of travel from the time they were born. You know what I mean? So now, just getting their minds to accept the fact that they are going to be they're not part of the European Union. So just flying over to Monaco is going to be the same as flying to go to the Fort Lauderdale show. There's going to be a lot more paperwork. They're going to have to make sure they allow for extra time because they're not going into a domestic situation as far as the airports go. It's going to be a different ballgame.
Do you know what it was? It was interesting because I had my first experience of it after Brexit of traveling to Europe, and going into Nice was nice and straightforward. Obviously, they have to stamp you into the country now, but it didn't add any extra on coming into the country. Coming back, totally different story. The queues at Nice Airport were snaking around, and it probably took around 10 minutes to get through to be stamped out of the country. Whereas before you would just walk straight through. They'd look at your passport, you'd walk through and it'd be done. But it took around about an hour and 10 minutes to actually get to join the queue, get to passport control for them to stamp you out and to get through to the boarding gates. So it was my first experience, and it does take a hell of a lot longer. Whether it was just that day because it was busy because a lot of people were leaving Monaco, I don't know, the Monaco Yacht Show, but that's the first time I've travelled into and out of Europe, and it was a lot more lengthier process than normal.
I wonder if anybody missed their flights as a result of not pre-planning that kind of.
They were pulling people out of the queue. There was the London City flight, there was the Manchester flight, there was another 2 flights. They were literally pulling people out of the queues who were going to miss their flights.
You got to be prepared. You're not flying from one end of England to the other anymore. Every time. You know, I guess there was that freedom because you fly to any country in Europe. So it didn't seem like such a big deal. But now, literally, the only place you can fly without freedom now is within the beautiful British Isles.
Yeah. And I think half the problem, this is why we tell people they need to leave at least a minimum of sort of 2-3 hours when they get to the airport. And I think what a lot of people don't realise is they think if they check in the night before, they've not got to go through the whole check-in process, and so they can just get through security and then they're going to be at their boarding gate. With you, that's not the case anymore. It's not the case. You have got to be stamped out of the country. It does take a lot longer. So please don't leave it till the last minute thinking that you're going to be okay, because 100% you're going to get caught out.
I live in Europe, and I take my son twice a year to the airport to send him to his father's in Germany. And I take him 3 hours in advance.
Yeah.
Not sure whether that's because I'm worried that he's not going to get on the plane or that I really need that space, but either way, 3 hours. Don't tell him I said that. For Brussels, tomorrow there's going to be a strike. What's going on there?
Yeah, so the end of September normally brings fewer problems for airline passengers. With the summer peak ending and carriers winding down their schedules, pressure on aviation in Europe and beyond is usually eased. Unfortunately, air travellers, though, will be faced with a range of issues from the start of October. So in Belgium, a national strike is scheduled for tomorrow, the 1st of October, with Brussels Airport announcing no passenger flights will depart due to a walkout by security staff. Initially, the airport thought around 1 in 5 flights could operate, but managers now say to ensure the safety of passengers and staff, the airlines, in consultation with Brussels Airport, have decided not to operate any departing passenger flights on the 1st of October. Now, arriving passenger flights may operate, but cancellations are likely. And anyone that is due to travel to, from, or via Brussels airports need to keep in contact with the airline or their travel provider.
And Delta Airlines has some news.
Yeah, so with many yachts now making the move from Mediterranean waters, some of those yachts will be heading to the popular yacht spot of French Polynesia. Now, whilst French Polynesia is a super yacht paradise, travel for the crew can be somewhat tricky. However, those crew planning to travel to French Polynesia will now have more options. That's because Delta Airlines are extending its seasonal service between Los Angeles and French Polynesia. The carrier has now extended their operations into June next year. Delta Airlines will now operate the service from October to June the 7th, 2025. Delta will be competing with 2 other airlines operating on the route, those other airlines being Air France and Air Tahiti Nui. Also, just a reminder to crew that all routes, whether specified or not, touch down for a technical stop in the USA. That means an ESTA is needed to be able to travel. Without one, you will be denied boarding. Please don't get confused. You'll see a Paris to French Polynesia, and it'll show as a direct flight. But trust me, it touches down in San Francisco or LA. They call it a technical stop. So it doesn't normally show when you're booking the flight. It does touch down. And even with a technical stop, you will need an ESTA. So make sure you've got one for any travel there.
And BA has some news.
Yeah, so British Airways is withdrawing from Southampton Airport next year, despite adding extra services this summer. The airline's BA City flight arm is suspending operations from the South Coast Airport for summer 2025. Now, BA spokesperson said, we are suspending our summer 2025 operations from Southampton Airport and contacting any affected customers, with options including rebooking on alternative flights with us or another airline or a full refund. Now, a Southampton Airport statement said clearly it's disappointing when any route is removed. However, they are in constant dialogue with airlines regarding the introduction of new services, and that includes backfilling the routes that have been withdrawn by British Airways.
And if you have any crew questions, you can please feel free to email or direct message Lee. All of his information is going to be below this interview when it airs. And as mentioned, next week, we're going to give you a special crew travel episode. We've never done a special before, Lee.
We've never done one before. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we'll be so good at doing specials, people will ask us to do more of them.
Who knows? Who knows?
But the special is going to be all about turbulence and how it's affecting air travel. And yes, indeed, it can be fatal. So it is something that you have to pay attention to and get a little bit more information in regards to how you can take care of yourself, your family members, and just be prepared.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's quite a good time to do it as well. What with the Fort Lauderdale boat show coming up soon, there'll be lots of people traveling to that. People who may not necessarily travel a lot who could take some good information from it. So it's probably the perfect time to do it.
And then the other way around too, Met Strait's coming up after that as well. So we've got travel across the oceans. Yeah, it's definitely time that we have a good chat about that. Anyways, Lee, I want to say thank you very much for your time. It is very much appreciated.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Always happy to be here.
Especially on a Monday.
Love it on a Monday. Something else then. I stopped myself.
You've been watching another edition of Crew Travel right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I have been your host, along with Lee Harris, my co-host. We'll see you again next week.